Hello everyone, Dusty Fly Guy here, and in today's video we're going to be testing 3 games on the MacBook M1 Air with 8GB, which is now approaching 5 years old. So can it still play games? In today's video we're going to find out. We've got 3 games to test, the first being Resident Evil 4 Remake, second being the Stranding game, and then the third one is Hello Kitty Island Adventure, and that actually might surprise you how well it can run that game. That sounds really funny, but we can get around 4K in that game. But stay tuned to find out more details. So I know a lot of people would probably test it on like editing and stuff, but I don't think anyone who has a MacBook Air is going to be editing, especially on M1. I think this is a bit more of a realistic scenario. So we're going to be testing first Resident Evil 4, but the other games we're going to be testing is games like Stranding. I think we're going to be trying Hello Kitty Island Adventure as well. Alright, so starting off with, you can immediately tell this game on its default graphics config is locked to 30 FPS at 1080p, which is actually pretty impressive if you really think about it, because this is probably like higher than the Xbox One is running the game. But this game does have a little bit of metal effects options that we can have a look at to try reach 60, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that on this machine. Oh my goodness, I just got hit in the face with a shovel. That's alright, I SWAT kicked him. This is my favorite game of all time as well, so I'm really happy it got ported to Mac. It's one of the greatest games ever made. Played it like 8 times, just the remake alone. Played the original a few times. I don't know what the general consensus is, but I do believe the remake is a better game. I don't know, the original kinda is showing its age, if you really think about it. With like having to stand still while aiming, it's just not great. Dodged that perfectly, not anymore. Alright, what I'm playing. But yeah, this game's running pretty well. We'll have a look at the graphics comparison. Not graphics comparison, we'll have a look at the graphics settings. So it's running at, let me hide my camera. It is running at 1080p, the frame rate locked to 30, metal effects set to quality, and just around low to mid settings, to be honest. MacBook is getting pretty hot and it's like freezing where I live. Hey Siri, what's the temperature in this room?
It's 12 degrees Celsius in the bedroom.
12 degrees Celsius in my bedroom, which is where I'm recording. So I wonder, I'll put up the measurements for American people, but that is pretty cold, and so the ambient temperatures should be affected, but we'll see. But now we'll actually lock in. I do have a huge delay here, by the way, through my capture card, so I don't think I'm actually this bad, but who knows, maybe I am really just this bad at my favorite game of all time. You need to leave. Grenada, that was a waste. I am playing on hardcore FYI as well. That's why this looks so difficult. But I thought, why not play this on hardcore? And you can often get this game for really cheap. And I've died. On to the next game. Alright, so again we are on the second game, which is Stranding, of course on the M1 Air, and let's get started. So at this point the MacBook Air is getting pretty warm. It's not too warm, I don't think it's at its full capacity, but we're in a pretty demanding area. This is a B team counter, so we kind of need to sneak around this thing and not get caught. I'll quickly show these settings. A big thing about Stranding's Mac port is the amount of in-depth settings we can customize when it comes to the metal effects and stuff. So I've got it set to the max frame rate to 60, but it's not going to reach that. But as you can see, we can change between spatial upscaling or temporal upscaling. We can change our metal effects to quality, balance, performance, and ultra. So we have the default graphics. I'm just going to leave it at what it was set to, and basically that's it. Yeah, let's get started. Now we kind of need to sneak around, and if we get caught, it won't be good. But as you can see here, the game does not run great. It automatically set to 60 FPS lock, but we can't even reach over 40, so that's not great. We are on a M1 Air again with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I think the RAM is holding it back. Yeah, we're using about 8.5 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than the Mac has, which is not great. So we're using this little thing on our shoulder to detect where these enemies are. They're called stranded things, BTs, beach things. And basically we need to sneak around them, and I'll just get caught for the video's sake to show the frame rate dip. But basically we need to dodge these things, and this like chiral matter, beach matter will come after us, and then there'll be like this big boss. You can see a whale or something should be coming. I believe it's the whale. Don't know yet though. But this is pretty early on in the game, but it's pretty demanding just because of the all of the matter. But as you can see, we're not even reaching 30 FPS, so this game might be a little bit too much for this device, but we could always try changing the metal FX down to performance, which might help with our frame rate. I think it's a little bit crazy they set it to that high. We'll start off with balance, see if that helps. That should mean we're at like a 40% resolution. I do think metal FX looks really good though, and I do really mean that. I really find it hard to tell the difference. I think DLSS and metal FX are leading when it comes to upscaling. That sounds a bit crazy, but FSR and Intel XeSS are pretty bad, and metal FX I think looks really fantastic. Funny enough, metal FX is built with FSR, I believe, and it just looks a lot better. But we have escaped these people, and yeah, you can see the environments are really lush. Setting it to balance seems to help us. We're still barely reaching 30 FPS, which is not great, but this is a base M1 machine, so yeah. I know I played some of this on the plane on my M1 iPad Air, and I enjoyed it on that, and that looks and runs a lot worse than this. But you can see that the game actually runs pretty well. Again, this is one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm really glad it's here. Apple seems to be picking most of my favorite games to port, which is cool, but I mean, the performance isn't really here on the M1, but it's certainly playable if this is your only means to play the game, and it looks fantastic on the built-in screen. It won't look as great on my recording due to processing and stuff, but on the actual camera, I mean on the actual display, it looks fantastic when you're not in a fight. I think 30 is very acceptable for a game like this. I know some people probably disagree, but I'd way rather play this. Oh, I'm about to get demonetized. I need to mute my audio. As I was saying, the game looks really good, and I would recommend playing it at 30 FPS and just cranking the settings up high. I mean, I play this game on my M4 Mini, and I can play the game at like 4K 30, and that's how I choose to play the game, because it's just a very beautiful game, and the soundtrack's really good as well. I think it's my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, and this is just a really good game. So if you have an M1 Air, I would recommend picking up this game, maybe when it's on sale. I don't know if it's worth the full price. I got it for half off, which was worth it for me. Anyway, let's move on to the next game, which is Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Alright, this next game is a lot easier to run, and it's a lot nicer than the last two games. It's just a peaceful game. It's Hello Kitty Island Adventure on Apple Arcade. Now, you might be laughing about this, but I think I use this so that we could push. This type of game can be ran at a high resolution, even on this machine, and I believe it does reach quite high frame rates. So this game is actually really popular. It's kind of like Animal Crossing, but Sanrio, which is pretty cool. Alright, now we are in, and as you can see, it is running at 50, like purely 60 FPS already, which is pretty amazing. My capture card can't record in 30 FPS. I will be upgrading that soon, guys. I know I've been saying that, but I promise I will this time. Grabbing that. But you can like catch bugs and stuff, similar to Animal Crossing. This is pretty much just Animal Crossing if you don't have a Nintendo Switch. And here are the settings. It appears we can't change it higher resolution on this current machine, but we can just set all the graphics to max. But this game runs no problem at like even 1440p to 4K. It runs literally zero issues. Alright, 60 FPS. Let me see if I can change it to I've set the capture card to 4K. So now let's see. Yeah, it's already at 4K. And the middle HUD is really tiny at the top right corner, but it's currently at 27 FPS at 4K, and if that isn't crazy to you, I don't know what is. That's pretty impressive. But that's kind of why I chose this game. As you can see, we've got the graphics maxed at 4K, and it's still running pretty well, albeit 26 at the moment. That's really small. I'm gonna have to upscale, but yeah, it's running at a very high resolution. I think this is a bit of an unrealistic example. I'd probably run the game at 1440p. Alright, so those were the 3 games I tested on the MacBook Air M1. I still think this machine is an absolute beast. You can get it for so cheap nowadays. I really do think if you don't need the extra power, which 90% of most people don't, the M1 Air is a no-brainer, especially if you can get it cheap. I probably wouldn't pay more than like $400 for it, but I do think it is an insane machine. Still to this day, even with the 8GB of RAM, I think most people really don't need more than that. I mean, this thing is really just going to be used for like web browsing. A lot of these YouTubers think it's a big issue, but most people don't do video editing or like really heavy gaming like we showcased in this video. So if you just want to do some light gaming, light editing, and of course this thing is a beast for schoolwork, like anything you throw at it will do, unless it's like 3D or creative work, which then it might struggle with the 8GB RAM. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now we can tell the M1 Air is still a beast 5 years later.